exciting, interesting session that we're going to be holding up now. The theme is on leading sustainability. How do we build a profession that is ready? This session is going to be talking about that how lifelong learning is extremely core to the accountancy profession and the importance of emerging sustainability today. Related services put acquiring the knowledge and upskilling into the mainstream. Now, this panel here that we have today will explore that how education is the key to turning this challenge into an opportunity for professional accountants to increase their relevance. For doing the deliverables, we have some eminent, distinguished international dignitaries with us today that I would like to invite on the dais now. In the order, we have the moderator, Ms. Helen Partridge, IFAC Director, Accountancy Education. May I please invite you, ma'am, kindly come up here on the dais. Thank you so much. Can we have a round of applause going on? Amongst the panelists, I'd like to invite Ms. Jelena Misita, Chair, IFAC PAO Development Advisory Group. Ms. Anne Mary Vitale, Chair, International Panel on Accountancy Education. Ms. Julia Penny, President, ICAEW. Ms. Thuto Masasa, Head of Advisory, BDO Advisory Services. And we have Dr. Ki Joo, Past President, IFAC. Let's put our hands together and welcome the very distinguished panel that we have to take on further this session thereby. Now I'd like to request our moderator for the session, Ms. Helen Partridge, to kindly start the proceedings of the session.
Thank you, Gopika. So as was mentioned, my name is Helen Partridge. I am the Director of Education for the International Federation of Accountants. It's my great pleasure to do this job. I get to think about the skills, the competencies, how to acquire knowledge, how to develop a profession that is truly ready and competent. I love to inspire people. But I will ask a question before I set the stage, and I'm going to stand up because I like to walk. But can I ask, how many of you believe the profession is ready for sustainability? Raise of hands. How many of you believe we are the best positioned profession to deliver sustainability? There we go, many more hands. How many of you feel confident moving in this area? Yay, Alan, thank you very much. So, IFAC's message has always been that we are the best positioned profession because we have the skills and competencies, those foundational skills and competencies that allow us to move into this area. Think about the flow of information, data analytics, interrogation, disclosures, how to figure out something's relevant, right? That's stuff that we do all the time. We're now being asked to take on a new topic. Ethics is another one, right? That foundation of ethics and integrity that Gabriella was talking about earlier in the plenary session. But I want to think about, because you heard all those standards that are being established. And those standards can be very well developed, but without a profession that is ready to take on those standards, they're going to fall flat. So we have to be ready. We have to be ready to take that challenge. And so while we're still awaiting the finalization of the ISSB standards, I am very pleased that they've taken that capacity building program they announced last week, and we are a partner in that. So I truly hope that the partnership will get us ready for for the oncoming, right? I'm hoping today, recognizing we're lacking some confidence, that we will start to build some of that confidence, right? Hopefully you walk out the session today and say, I think we can do this. I think I'm ready. Maybe not fully ready, but we'll get there. I'm hoping that you'll start to see some of those skills and competencies. And then also hear some reflections on that mindset shift from CPD as a compliance to CPD as a way to remain relevant. Because that's really what we're going to do. We're going to remain relevant in our industry. So thank you to all the esteemed colleagues here with me today. And yes, you will notice I have a very female-heavy panel. I am I am an advocate for feminism. Thank you, Dr. Joo. I appreciate it. You are not a token male, but you're definitely here because of your passion for education. So yes, you're absolutely my choice there. But there's a lot of strength on this platform here with me today. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists here to really reflect on whether you think we are ready to be ready to lead in sustainability, and if so, what do you think is the most important skill to take us forward? Maybe Anne-Marie, can I turn to you first, please?
You can. Am I on? No. All right. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for being here, and I'm truly honored, and I appreciate your time. And I think I can say for all of us that Helen's enthusiasm is infectious. Isn't that terrific, right? Definitely passion, a lot of passion for the profession. And I'm equally grateful to be with this great panel here. So I'm talking today on behalf of the International Panel on Accountancy Education and not as my role as a PwC partner. But I want to talk to you about some reflections and thoughts and what we're focused on from an International Panel of Accountancy Education perspective. So first of all, our current thinking. A lot have discussed or commented that because of sustainability, massive changes are needed, that things have fundamentally changed. I've heard some folks say that we need to change our DNA. But I really think that before we start jumping to that and thinking that initial professional development or continuing professional development needs to be revised, we need to step back and think about our foundational competencies that everyone here in the room has. So first of all, we do have existing skills and competencies, and we operate on a foundation of ethics, integrity, and trust. And of course, there is our non-negotiable, absolute non-negotiable, and that's quality. Now, we're at an inflection point as professional accountants. We should be expanding our professional boundaries, and we should be doing different things. And these different things are quality reporting, specifically related to sustainability or ESG. And this is either as a professional accountant in business or as an auditor. Now, upskilling is not new for us. Everyone here has upskilled themselves or has been upskilled as they move to different roles and as this profession has changed so much. But we have this immense opportunity to expand our skill set. And what we're observing right now are there's three competency pillars from an ESG perspective or sustainability perspective that are emerging. The first one is business acumen, the next one is behavioral competence, and then the next one is technical competence. Now, these are not new, and in fact, you may recognize the first two, business acumen and behavioral competence. These are the same areas associated with information and communication technology skills. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about each of these, about what isn't new, and then what is new for us, with the objective to highlight the foundational skills that we have and how we can build on them. So first of all, what hasn't changed? As professional accountants, we obtain an understanding and we evaluate business models. We understand the regulatory, industry, and other external factors in an entity's operating environment. Strategic business decisions we know are based on sometimes large data sets, applying professional judgment. And we know business models are changing, and they're changing quickly. But what is new? What can we expect? Well, the breadth and depth of understanding governance, strategy, and risk, and whether its disclosure is complete, neutral, and accurate depiction of sustainability-related financial information, that is new. Understanding entities' governance structure and oversight, that isn't new. But what is new is obtaining a sufficient understanding to evaluate the adequacy of disclosure of governance, including an entity's development of knowledge-based assets. That'll be new for us. Now, as professional accountants, we contribute to or we obtain an understanding of business strategy. Again, not new. What is going to be new to us, though, is long-term strategic measurement, evaluating and measuring progress towards achieving climate-based targets well into the future. For example, sometimes 10 to 20 years. And the extent and level of understanding an entity's enterprise risk, that isn't new for us. But the subject of physical risk is conceptually new. Now, behavioral competence, right? Also foundational to professional accountants. Here's what has not changed. Intellectual curiosity, critical thinking, adaptability, lifelong learning to effectively respond to an environment of rapid technological change. Intellectual agility, we all need to have technological agility, intellectual agility, which means embracing new or alternative ways of working and adapting to changing circumstances quickly. What's new? A greater emphasis on self-learning. Definitely is new. What's also new is the possible increased risk of management bias when there are new pressures to achieve long-term strategic commitments that are disclosed. We'll be applying professional skepticism and judgment to a new subject matter. For example, if you looked at changes in carbon dioxide emissions year over year, would you be able to tell it was reasonable? Or would we have to develop some expertise and experience? What's considered contrary evidence to disclose strategic goals, long-term cash flow projections, or changes in emissions rate? That's something new we're going to need to learn. Now, technical competence. Technical competence is defined by the International Education Standards as the ability to apply, that's key there, apply professional knowledge to perform the role to a defined standard. Now, IES 2, technical competence, has several learning outcomes that are applicable to sustainability reporting. For example, interpret reports that include non-financial data and information. That's applicable. Analyze data and information to support management decision-making. Or analyze the adequacy of systems, processes, and controls for collecting, generating, accessing, or sharing data and information. But what's new when it comes to technical competence? Understanding science-based metrics, that'll be new. Understanding causes, sources, and likelihood of physical risks. As Helen mentioned, we understand the flow of information, but what will be new is understanding energy flows and emission sources. Now, additionally, we'll need to ask ourselves, what are the uncertainties associated with quantities reported? Not only estimation uncertainty, but scientific uncertainties. So we understand the completeness assertion for financial reporting. What is new is how to determine and evaluate completeness of emissions populations and what constitutes a complete set of sustainability-related financial disclosures. Now, use of experts or specialists will become increasingly important, but the fundamental way we look at them or use them as a professional accountant in business doesn't change. For example, we evaluate the expert's competency, we evaluate their data, and we evaluate significant assumptions and methods that are used. That's not going to change. That's one of our fundamental core skills. Also, we expect that there'll be more information and emphasis of information obtained from external sources. So by way of example, we know a carbon footprint can be attained from a third-party source. And some of those third parties state that their assessments are underpinned by the use of internationally recognized emission factors or databases using an ISO standard. But what does that mean? How do we evaluate that? How are we comfortable that third parties can rely on that information that's being obtained from outside an entity? So this isn't new to us. We need to understand the relevance and the reliability of that information for external reliance. What I've demonstrated here, hopefully, is that we have many of the core competencies and the foundational skills. And you've heard a lot in this program so far and in this great event that's taking place. And you're hearing a lot about, obviously, sustainability, and you heard also about the International Sustainability Standards Board, and it feels like a lot. But when it comes to learning and development, We have the expertise and the skills that are foundational. And yes, there will be incremental change. There will be incremental knowledge that we need to acquire and some additional experience. But we absolutely are ready to meet the challenge and to take advantage of it. And I'm fully confident that with using our foundational skills that we're going to get there, without a doubt. So thank you, Helen.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. So Anne-Marie, as you said, is part of the IPA, the panel for accounting education that advises IFAC. And I'm looking forward to starting our outreach program, because there is one set of standards you did not hear about on that stage earlier, and it is the education standards, the international education standards, which are the foundation to everyone's qualification here. It's the foundation to your ongoing continuing education. And so we are exploring, what does this mean to the education standards? But we'll see where that leads us. Julia, may I turn to you maybe and ask, what are your thoughts on whether we are ready as a profession?
Thank you, Helen. And I'd like to start off by explaining a little bit. ICAEW, the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, we've been around since 1880, but we recognized some years ago that sustainability had to be a core part of our strategic direction, because without that, we really cannot ensure that there is a future for any business. And after all, we are business advisors, we are auditors, we are accountants. And so sustainability is, the core issue of the day. So in terms of, how prepared we are, Anne-Marie, you've done a fantastic job of explaining all of those skills-based areas that we have, that we know, and some of the gaps that we can see. So we do think, and I think, as a profession, we are very well placed to be able to deal with the issue of sustainability. Accountants, chartered accountants, are almost everywhere, in business, in government, in not-for-profits. So this gives us a really good platform. But without the skills that Anne-Marie has already talked about, how could we take sustainability forward? So I think in terms of the skills that we have that ethical background. We don't want greenwashing to be done. We want people to be able to trust what the accountant, what the auditor is saying in a set of accounts, in the non-financial information, in the sustainability information. But what we've got to add to that, and what, as accountants we need to ensure that we've upskilled, is an understanding of how urgent this problem is. Now, as president of ICAEW, I've been going around the world talking to our members, and for some of them, ESG, so the environment, the social, the governance, is absolutely embedded already in everything that they do with clients. But that tends to be at the larger end of the scale. And as you come down to the smaller organizations, some people are a little bit, sustainability. I say, do you talk to your clients about sustainability? No. Well, if we're not talking to our clients about sustainability, if we're not talking to our boards, if we work within business about sustainability, then that is a gap. That is an area that we need to cover. If we are not recognizing that it's about the planet, it's about the people, it's about nature, and these are all interlinked, and without understanding how these things are interlinked, we won't be able to continue doing our jobs properly, because it will link into the future of that business. Because without sustainability, clearly there is no business. Never mind going concern, we just won't have a going concern of a planet. So I think that is an area where accountants really need to work hard to make sure that they're taking the time to look around them and to see the environment and to understand the impact that that has. So the ethics are a fantastic grounding. The skills, the attestation skills, the assurance skills mean that we are prepared. Yes, we need to learn about Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 emissions. Yes, we need to learn a new language about greenhouse gases and CO2 equivalents. So yes, there's new stuff that we need to learn, but we've always learnt new stuff. Who is doing the same things today, using the same knowledge as when they qualified, assuming that you are not newly qualified? Come on, who is just doing the same things? None of us are doing the same things today. So we have an ability to adapt. We have an ability to move forward. But we need to self-assess. What do we need in our roles? For instance, I was talking to the people in our team at ICAEW who deal with mergers, acquisitions, and financing. And they said ESG within investments is core. And there's a paper that has been written on what we need to understand from a mergers, acquisition, and investment point of view about sustainability. If we're in audit, what we need to understand about impairments, about asset lives, about stranded assets. If you're dealing with supply chains that are falling apart because of extreme climate events, and we've seen a fair few of those already this year, how are you going to deal with that from an audit point of view, from an accounting point of view? How is that reflected in the non-financial information? So each of us has a role to look at, what do I need to know about sustainability? How do I need to apply it? Because we have the basic skills, but we need to add some knowledge and perhaps some extra skills in terms of interpreting the importance of sustainability for our particular roles. So I think to me, yes, I love the way that you expressed those, what we've got and what we need to deal with. And I think we further need to refine that in terms of our own particular roles, because I know that we have a whole variety of roles. So that's what I would say by way of talking to that question. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you, Julia. It's like reflecting back when I first started, I mean, I still remember green ledger paper. Like, I don't remember now, I've still got some in my office that my daughter uses to scribble on, but it's fun. So, Jelena, maybe I can turn to you and ask, what are your thoughts on the topic? You think we're ready?
Yeah. Hope you can hear me. Okay. Thank you so much. Let's try to put it in a simple way. Mostly, I'm working with a professional accountancy organization in emerging and developing markets. And when they ask, and they talk to me and my colleagues and ask why this is so crucial for us as a professional accountants in this particular moment, then I said, this is as I can see. So you're providing your S&P, you're providing, tax advisory service to your client, and you have that client for years. When that client needs any sustainability-related services, and you're not able to provide it, he will not stay with you. As simple as it is. So you need to start preparing yourself right now. You will not going to wait. The times come that someone else will be ready, or someone also out of our profession start work on that. Why? You have all competencies. You just need to upskill it, and you need to strengthen your themes. So I think let's try to put it in a simple way in many parts of the world where they think we still have a time for it. We have years in front of us to develop those skills. My message is always, we don't have years in front of us. We need to react now. Many reasons why we need to react now as a profession who has a public mandate. My colleagues was already talking about that. But also, that's the way how we can stay on the market and be relevant. So when it comes to the relevancy, there is two, for me, key words. If we want to be relevant, is technology and sustainability. Thank you.
Thanks, Jelena. To me, it truly is, it's our opportunity to lose, right? If we don't step up and we take charge, there are people who will take it from us. So, Thuto, how about your thoughts on this? You're from a BDO advisory perspective, so.
Sure. And let me just also really acknowledge the fact that, it's been long that, I've been to a conference like this with so many people, so I'm privileged to be here. COVID really did do a little bit of damage, I think, for all of us. And again, maybe it's an example of how fast things can move and how fast we all need to adapt, actually. And I'll summarize it, Helen. I was with a client just last week in Botswana, down in Africa. And this client is basically setting up a mine, in Botswana. It's a manganese mine. Setting up a mine, they've got to have an offtake. and they're raising capital. Now, their off-takers are somewhere in Europe, and the capital providers split between Americas and Europe. And the question that they were asking me as an accounting professional, and I guess as an advisor, they can't do anything without necessarily pleasing the off-taker and the capital provider around the ESG matters. And I think the point I'm driving home is we need to have answers. So how do I help them, first of all, in that there are many stakeholders, I think, in the marketplace wanting to actually really make the sustainability matters an issue, because first of all, no one is no longer interested in the short-term gain. People are talking of the value creation in the medium and the long term. And we are seeing regulators now starting to really have a good push. And even in the finance world, I mean, the likes of BlackRock, they've been talking about it for many years to say, it's great that you're telling us about your bottom line. It's great that you're telling us your quarterly outputs, but what we really want to know is the long-term sustainability of the environment that you operate in and the long-term of those, I guess, around you. So all I think I'm kind of then maybe putting out there for us as professional accountants today. We've got the privilege, we sit with the privilege of understanding, I think, strategically how businesses operate through the numbers that we've been entrusted in. We also have the privilege of understanding our contribution into society. Earlier on, I think various panelists also spoke about the economic impact that we have. So with all of that, if we don't have answers, I'm just not so sure where the world should look to. So I think my message is it's a no-brainer that we definitely need to evolve. It's a no-brainer that we need to continually learn. And when I was speaking to you, I think a couple of weeks ago, Helen, I spoke about the fact that, jeepers, this bus is moving, but we're building it as we go along, you know? And that is that, and that's always been our world. We build as we drive. And we catch on, you know, and the ESG, when I speak to some of my partners, particularly in the audit space, sometimes they want to shy away from the subject, but I think maybe we also make it a bit hard. It really is some of the, you know, simple things. In my environment back in South Africa, you know, the regulator, or rather, let me just say, the government and the regulators had to take a specific stand around, say, the social economic impact that I would say the apartheid regime had on the environment. And as a result, they introduced a new legislation around Black economic empowerment. Regulation did that, and we're starting to see some movements, and we all had to adapt somewhat. And I'm very optimistic that we can do it. We probably just need to take the veil away around how difficult it could possibly be, because it is now the new operating environment. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I love this analogy of we're driving the bus while we're still trying to build it. I'm hoping all four wheels are on at this point, but it depends on who you talk to sometimes, right? But thank you. So this whole concept, and we've all spoken to the need for us to develop. And hopefully every professional accountant in the room is associated with a professional accounting organization. So me personally, I'm with AICPA. I'm going to ask Jelena a question, but she might be choking over there. Are you okay? Okay. So given your role as the PAO Development Advisory Group Chair, I guess what advice would you have for some of the PAOs that are developing in how to help their members?
Okay, it's a tough question, but let's start it. So my first advice is don't wait for the standards. Okay, so in developing parts of the world, most of POs is waiting for standards. And they say, okay, when the standards come out, we will think about, you know, how we were going to approach for it. Don't do it, because we're going to be too late. So I think the first thing is that you need to try to look for education, quick win, you know, just need to collaborate with different partners, with the experts with different experts. You need to identify the people who can help you in this. So I think it's very important to don't wait for the standards, start to build your own capacity now. I think that should be the first step. Also, I think one thing which helps in many parts of the world when it comes to building the profession as a business profession, we can apply that experience from before, which is collaboration with universities. Collaboration with universities was accelerating and helping many countries to build our profession. So use the same experience, doing this together with them, and leverage the resources with universities. And you will have a great help. So I think the message is also like, first of all, be proactive, then gather as many partners as is possible in this area who can provide you the help. Try with them to define the competency requirements. So I think that could be some of the next steps what a professional accountancy organization can also do. And then one of the things what some of them in developing parts of the world was already doing about, they're updating their curriculums and learning materials. Some of them have capacities to do that, some of them would just start it, but it can be small. It doesn't need to be a big, you don't need to update it, the whole curriculum. Just do the small things, just introduce as a concept, just start with it. I think it's very important. You can develop, together with the experts, stand along a course with the basic things, which actually explaining what is the role of professional accountant in ESG environment. What in all of this space better, what is his role? So just go step by step, doesn't need to be the huge, big reform. So I think this is some of these first steps, what we see, it actually works in the field.
Thank you, Jelena. I'm hearing that theme of collaboration, right? Collaboration across the ecosystem with the universities, as you said, with the PAOs, employers is another one I would recommend. But then collaboration jurisdictionally. Right? I know that jurisdictions compete, but can I ask we put aside the competition for maybe 10 years, just get the profession there and then we can compete again. But Julie, I know ICAEW who have a certificate on sustainability. What would you recommend in terms of how to help your members?
Thank you. I think you do have to look at both sides of the training, as in the initial training and then the CPD. And so, yes, getting it into that initial qualification so that as soon as new students are studying accountancy, they see it in the round. They see the sustainability as integrated into every part of the business. But then the CPD, it's almost more of a battle to deal with the CPD because, of course, we've got more already qualified accountants that didn't do anything about sustainability because, let's face it, we weren't all thinking about that when we trained. It was, well, for me, quite a long time ago, but I'm not going to tell you how long. So I think we've already started to see some collaboration, which is essential in my mind, and ICAEW's a key part, as are many here, of Chartered Accountants Worldwide. And so what we've done in Chartered Accountants Worldwide is bring together information from different bodies, different PAOs, and put them on a sustainability hub so that everybody can see what that is from all of the different bodies. So I think that's cool. IFAC obviously is doing a lot from a collaboration point of view, and that is very welcome. But I think we also have to make sure that, reflecting on my previous comments, we don't forget all of the different roles that people play. There's a lot of concentration at the moment at the listed end of the market, at the big companies, but we go all the way down to the little companies, and we all know that a lot of business is in little companies, in small and medium-sized enterprises, in small and medium-sized practices. So I would put out a plea to PAOs that they don't forget that part, and they look at making it simple. As you say, you've got to start somewhere for all of us to look and say, well, what needs to happen on a sustainability front? So the sustainability certificate that you mentioned, and if you need more details, there's a QR code below, stand 55. That is trying to say to anybody who needs a little bit more education, here are some basics to really understand in a program which is relatively simple to undertake. So I think those would be my comments there.
Thank you, Julia. So, Thuto, can I turn back to you in some of your introductory comments? And you were talking about your clients and how they are asking you lots of questions. We are known as a trusted advisor, right? It's reflecting back to some comments I heard a couple of weeks ago. During the pandemic, we became almost therapists to some people because we are known as trusted advisors. But I also heard some element of it's not just listed companies, right? These are SMPs, these are supply chain companies that are asking this. So really, as a profession as a whole, we should be thinking about it. But what level of experience or expertise are you seeing at your clients already? Is there anything, or are they just turning to you for everything?
Sure. It's an interesting one, Helen, in a sense that if I reflect in the South African market, right, we've had introduction of integrated reporting. Integrated reporting, which then deals actually with both financial and non-financial information and how they basically intertwine and how they, because they are not in silos and they're not related, right? And this was as a result also of, through our corporate governance, our code of corporate governance. So we're seeing a lot of adoption, I think, in the larger listed clients. You know, that stories and maybe some level of the sustainability stories come through there. But when you talk of small, medium-sized organizations, because there isn't really this level of regulation or anybody really monitoring and watching them as such, we're not necessarily seeing those stories come through. And I do empathize to some degree, because the question is, what is the business case for them? And number two as well is that it's this reporting issue, it is a bit of a costly issue. So show me why. That is the question. But the why also then lies in maybe what I spoke about earlier on around this. It's actually a junior mine I was referring to earlier on. Their why now, the value that they will create, as I said, lies in between two key critical stakeholders that need to unlock that value for them, the off-taker and the capital provider. So the why is starting to come through because of the one regulation that we're seeing it in various jurisdictions, and also then the capital, I think, providers also starting to kind of speak this particular language. But when you really do go to smaller, medium-sized companies, they don't see the real value. And as I said, it's understandable, but we'll see, I think, that come through purely because of the value chains. The global value chains are going to push us all there. And I think there was reference to Scope 3 emissions now starting to be a great sort of maybe topical issue, and also bringing it into reporting. And when we look at that, it almost touches anybody and everybody. So I think it's coming. We're not seeing it at the moment. I think that set of clients in my environment, they're very relaxed somewhat, and but I think sooner or later, because of the changes, we'll then see that particular sort of maybe compliance reporting and actually conversations take place.
Wonderful. I guess anyone else seeing anything different in your jurisdictions? I mean, Jelena, do you have anything on, like, I think at one point you were talking about the polluters. Is this?
Yeah, I have a different experience. One of them is the sustainability reporting, and this is not our thing because this is for big polluters. This is not related to our industry. That was one of the things what I learned during our engagements with different POs and representatives of POs in different developing and emerging markets. It is for polluters, or our regulators don't even think about this. This is not on the list of our priorities. So we have years to prepare ourselves. You know, they think this is, in some parts of the world, they can think about this, but this is not priority for us right now. And then things change very quickly. Then they learn in one country, they said, oh, we'll take 5 to 10 years maybe for our government to think about this, to introduce. And then very quickly it happens that lenders which play a huge role, they don't have developed capital market in their country, start changing the narrative. And they, we need to start to prepare ourselves. So that's the sum of the examples, what we learned.
That's when it becomes our opportunity to lose, right? So, yeah. Anne-Marie, maybe I can turn to you, if I may. I guess, any thoughts on how a professional accountant should be acquiring some of this knowledge? I know Julia mentioned one of the certificates, but what are your thoughts?
So, am I on? Yeah. So thank you, Helen. Thank you for the question. And as I look out at everyone in the room here, I really have something that's very important, which is we cannot sit here and wait to have someone to tell us what to learn. This is where self-directed learning becomes very important. Unstructured learning becomes very important. But we've been doing this our entire career. There are significant amounts of information that are available, publicly available information, as it relates to sustainability and ESG. And so there's no need to wait. You can do a couple of things. No one needs to raise their hand right now, but ask yourselves, have you read the exposure draft for the ISSB standards? Have you listened to a podcast that talks about ESG? Have you taken advantage of the webinars that some of the larger accounting firms provide for free that talk about ESG and the things you need to worry about? Thank you. Someone raise your hand. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Excellent. Oh, someone over there as well. Hands are going up everywhere. Thank you. You've made my day. Perfect. But you're doing exactly as professional accountants what we do. Absolutely fantastic. And for those that are in a jurisdiction where maybe you had to adopt GRI standards or you voluntarily did so, a recommendation is the following. Is the ISSB and the GRI have an agreement, and they're planning to develop a full articulation of the ways in which the standards developed by GRI and by the ISSB are complementary or where they diverge with an explanation. So you don't need to figure this out yourself, because there are a lot of different standards that may have been adopted, or many companies may be following something different. There's no need to do it by yourself. You're not alone. This gets back to the collaboration point, very much so. Another point is we understand that the ISSB, sometime in the middle of next year, is going to issue training related to their standards. Recommendation is don't try to start developing or interpreting your own training right now. Think about your foundational skills. If you're a PAO, or even as the individual, think about your intellectual curiosity, your data analytics skills, what you know you can already apply, your use of professional judgment. Think about all of that. Make sure you're sharp on that. And then, when these additional resources come out, which should be soon, you can leverage that. You're not starting from scratch, and you don't have to go it alone, right? There are a lot of great individuals and information that's out there. And so those are just some of my recommendations where you can actively now increase your knowledge, as a lot of you've had. And I know those that haven't raised your hand, mentally, you have raised your hand. I'm fully confident of that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. So I'm cognizant of time because the screen wasn't changing, so I lost track a bit. And we had prep calls for about 3 hours, so we can keep talking if we need to. But in 60 seconds or less, before I turn to Dr. Joo, let me start with Jelena. What is the risk for professional accountants not pursuing knowledge in this area?
Like I said, we will not be relevant.
Done. I like it. Mic drop. Okay. How about you, Thuto?
Well, we talk about value creation, so you clearly are not going to participate in that value creation story of organizations, the economy, and I think, yeah, countries overall.
I love that, value creation. I hate being a compliance function, don't you? Value added or services. Julia, what's your risk?
I think it's the loss of trust in the profession. If we can't deal with the most fundamental issue affecting our planet at the moment, then how can people trust accountants?
I agree. We maybe need therapist training, but I agree with that. Anne-Marie, to you, what is the risk?
Thank you. The risk I see is as follows. Reduce access to capital, that's a risk. Reduce attractiveness of future employees to the profession, that's a big risk. It's all a big risk. But boy, how attractive the profession is when we focus on sustainability, just from my own experience. A risk that customers are going to move to a competitor because you cannot provide the data that your customer needs because you're part of the value chain. And that is another risk, a very significant business risk. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Thuto.
I'm sorry, just one thing that I think, and I don't know if everyone is experiencing it across the world, but we're losing throughput. Our young people are no longer interested in this profession. So I think it's also important to then say, how do we regain that throughput again, because it's important.
So as it relates to that, you are exactly right, exactly right. And I just want to tell a story. So when I talk to my staff, and I would talk to my new staff, and I would tell them how important their role was, how I'm relying on it, and I would show them an opinion, I would show who it was addressed to, and how investors are relying on it. It didn't really resonate with them. It was too distant, it was too far. They understood, they were professionals and they would do their job. But when you start talking about ESG, there's an emotional connection. It is aligned with their values, and the attractiveness to what we do is increasing. So we have a double opportunity here, which is expand our services, provide that value, remain relevant, and attract individuals to the profession. I mean, what more can we ask for? It's pretty amazing, very amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, my honest fear is that we are a declining profession, right? And finding ways to attract new people to meet the demand, because when people figure out what we do in sustainability, they're going to come for us. So, Dr. Joo, may I turn to you, please? Just to come to the podium, absolutely. Give us some of your thoughts on terms of not using CPD or not using continuous learning as a compliance exercise. By all means, to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Ki Joo, as introduced, the past president of IFAC. I used to be the immediate past president, but the last Thursday, as the new president, Asma, was elected, I becoming past president, and Alan Johnson here, he is immediate past president. Okay, I was delighted to attend this session and hear the valuable discussions made by the panelists about our professional sustainability and education others. As I summarized our discussion, there are three significant challenges, among others, professional accountants are facing today. Sustainability reporting, disruptive information technology, and attracting young talent. First, the sustainability reporting. A year ago, IFAC surveyed the state of play regarding reporting and assurance of sustainability information. It proves that many companies, mostly big companies and some medium companies, are providing sustainability information. However, unlike IFRS, they use different sets of standards such as GRI, TCFD, and SASB, and their reports are not all audited or assured by professional accountants. Recently, IFRS Foundation has successfully launched IWSB, which is a timely and relevant response to demand from investors and broader society. I am confident that international standards, which IWSB will produce, will play a critical role in building trust in sustainability reporting worldwide. International standards are adopted worldwide because they are high quality, because they are developed in multi-stakeholder environment, and they are prepared in accordance with the public interest. But there is one other critical factor at play in the adoption story: implementation. The key to this implementation is accountancy profession's strength on the ground. Professional accountants, whether they are preparers or auditors, they must have sound knowledge and good experience with sustainability reporting to effectively support the implementation of international standards. Before establishing IWSB, IFAC had taken the initiative on enhanced corporate reporting, also called integrated reporting. Integrated reporting is based on the concept that corporate reporting should show not only financial performance, but how it has been achieved. Integrated reporting enables integrated thinking, and integrated thinking is also prerequisite to producing reliable and relevant integrated reporting. With the integrated thinking, we must look at other key performance factors connected to financial performance and broader information related to value creation and sustainability, as well as environmental, social, and governance factors. It leads to the importance of accountant lifelong learning mindset in expanding our scope beyond the financial and economic theories. Another issue we accountants face today is how to deal with disruptive information technology. We are living in the era of digital revolution. Literally every day, we hear news about new technological development. However, artificial intelligence and disruptive technological development are no threat to the accounting profession. Instead, it is helping drive the accountancy profession further up the value chain. Accountants are to be more productive, strategic business advisors, leaving low value work to technology. It will lead to enlarging the learning capacity of accountants. No matter what your age, no matter what your experience, accountants must be supported by a learning environment that reflects today's reality. In this context, professional accountants should see their PAO as their key partner in education. PAOs must likewise be responsive partners in enabling their members' career journey. Young talent, there is another challenge for the accountancy profession to be sustainable. We must search for new talent. Recently, the Financial Times introduced an article about a sharp decline in the number of people taking exams for entry into the accounting profession. The article said potential candidates heard rumors that accounting is nerdy and boring. This article focuses on the United States, but the challenges that the accounting profession faces regarding attracting the brightest talent would be similar in many countries. The accountancy profession plays a critical role in building strong and sustainable economies, but we cannot do it without good people. To attract best young people, we must reflect their passions and their desire. Modern and agile education and training systems are crucial. We must offer careers and opportunities that enable them to carry their spirit of innovation from the classroom to the boardroom. In summary, innovative mind, creative thinking are the keys in dealing with the issues in sustainability reporting, disruptive information technology, and attracting young talent. But how can you achieve this? The answer is the continuous learning mindset. For many years, Peter Drucker, the founder of the modern management, had emphasized that lifelong learning mindset is essential to be continuously successful. Therefore, if we are committed to the continuous learning mindset, if we are determined to enhance our capacity to learn fast, our profession will be not only innovative, but also nimble and agile enough to move forward confidently into the promising future. The future is sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joo. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So, thank you to Anne-Marie, to Julia, to Thuto, to Jelena, to Dr. Joo. I have one question. How many of you feel a little bit more confident now? We did our job, because I was going to promise to do it all over again if I got no hands up. So thank you for that. So as I mentioned, we have... okay, there was a hand. You're definitely confident. I love it. As I mentioned, we've been partnering with the ISSB, right? It was announced last week. And they had a question for you. And I'm happy to follow anything through to them. They want to know what you need, right? They're trying to increase the capacity globally. So if you have any ideas of what it is you need, then send an email to, and I hope you've got pens, papers, phones, education@ifac.org, okay? Happy to take any of those thoughts, and I will again pass them through to the ISSB, because the only way I think we can win is collaboration. I think it's collaboration with the standard setting boards, it's collaboration across jurisdictions, it's collaboration with all of the accountancy education stakeholder ecosystem. So with that, thank you ever so much. Thank you for joining us, and I will pass back to Gopika. Thank you.
That was such a pleasure to listen to something which was extremely refreshing, and although after a complete long day of having some very, very interesting panel discussions here, can we all first give across a big round of applause to the panelists here. We talked about ethics, we talked about integrity, we talked about trusts, and the most important, we talked about that how important it is to bring this into the education sector for the accountants to make it extremely relevant for the future. Thank you so much, distinguished panelists here. And as a token of our deep gratitude and appreciation, we would like to extend a token of memento to you all here. For the same, I'd like to invite CA Umesh Ramnarayan Sharma, sir, please, from CCM ICAEW first, to kindly come up on the dais to facilitate Ms. Helen Partridge, IFAC Director, Accountancy Education. Thank you so much, sir. May I now invite CA Dayanivas Sharma, CCM ICAEW, again for facilitating Ms. Jelena Misita, right? Thank you so much, sir. I will now invite CA Sridhar Mupala, CCM ICAEW, to kindly come up on the dais and do us the honor of facilitating Ms. Anne-Marie Vitale, Chair, International Panel on the Accountancy Education. Let's have a round of applause, everyone. Thank you so much. May I now invite CA Kotha S. Srinivas, CCM ICAEW, to come up on the dais here, please. And honor us by facilitating Ms. Julia Penny, President, ICAEW. Let's have a big round of applause. Thank you so much. I will now invite CA Rohit Rovatia Agarwal, CCM ICAI, to facilitate Ms. Thuto Masasa, Head of Advisory, BDO Advisory Services. Can we continue with the appreciation for the wonderful session that we've had? And once again, I would like to invite CA Dayanivas Sharma, CCM ICAI, sir, to kindly come up on the dais and help us in facilitating Dr. Ki Joo, past President, IFAC. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That brings us to an end of this session on leading sustainability, and thank you to all the eminent panelists. Coming up for the evening, we have a startup pitch night, which is starting at 6:45 p.m., go on till about 8 p.m., where you'll be able to watch 6 exciting startups from Australia and India pitch their businesses in the same hall right here. You'll all have to vote to decide that who will be crowned. 5 lucky delegates attendees will win the CANZ educational products worth AUD 1,000 each. So do not miss the opportunity and be there to witness the startup pitch night. Thank you so much till about 6:45.